On to the terrible events of recent days, the really appalling attack on the synagogue in Melbourne, now another anti-Semitic vandalism attack in Sydney's eastern suburbs in Wallara. It's appalling stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I've been casting my mind back on sort of these attacks. We saw them intermittently in the past, but this consistent, sustained attack on a community essentially because of their religion, because they're Jewish, it is absolutely appalling. And of course, leaders should be calling it out. And it's interesting to see the contrast, though, isn't it, between three leaders. So Chris Minns in New South Wales, Anthony Albanese and Jacinta Allen. I think that Chris Minns has shown the way in terms of being very strong about this. I note that he said that he rang the ambassador. Do we know if the Prime Minister has rung the ambassador? Because it's interesting that a state premier should pick up the phone, and you wonder whether or not the Prime Minister should.
Yes, well, and just to be there on the day, I know he's in Sydney anyway, the Prime Minister was in Perth, but that urgency, that sense of urgency is important in terms of the way the leadership is perceived as well.
For two reasons. One, to know that we're throwing our arms around the community and that we're trying our best to make sure that they feel safe as Australians. And the other is to send a really strong message that this is just unacceptable. Now, if they were attacking Catholics or if they were attacking mosques, same thing. You've got to be definitive about this. And whether it's the right take out of it or not, you get the sense of the fact that there's an equivocation inside the Labor Party on this issue because they are judging where votes lie at the next election, where the majority of votes lie, that they're playing to the Green seats and they're playing to those Western suburbs seats in Sydney, where they think that the sentiment there might be different. Again, I don't know whether I can't look into people's hearts and tell you whether or not that's what they're thinking, but do electoral considerations come into play? And if they do, of course, that would be outrageous.
The Prime Minister and his senior colleagues saying that he was on the phone to the president of that synagogue on Saturday, that he was making various representations to the Jewish community, security briefings with federal police from the get-go. It's been on his radar from the start. Is it just the optics of saying it took a couple of days before he got there? When you it's a big country. Obviously, he was in Perth. It's tricky when you got the Prime Minister of Nauru, who was here as well on Monday. But from your experience around this place, is it better for a Prime Minister to drop everything and just go?
I think it would just be defined, right? To be well defined on where you stand about it. It took a couple of days for him to decide that it looked like a terrorist incident. Now, how could it really have been anything else if you firebombed a synagogue at the time in the times that we're in at the moment? It's hard to see how it could have been anything other than an act of terror. Now, I know that there's a process, right? But the Prime Minister can say, well, that's what that looks like to me. And I think that the real issue that Anthony Albanese has got, not just on this, but on other issues, is one of definition. He lacks definition. He lacks clarity. And I think it's, as I said the other night, it's like the old thing from Revelations, be either hot or cold, but if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you from my mouth. And too often the Prime Minister seems lukewarm.
Chris Uhlmann, appreciate your efforts this year, and I look forward to seeing you for the election year in a couple of months from now. Have a good break.
Take care.